Holy shiza. Holy shiza. What's happening right now is literally one of the biggest wealth transfers in human history. And of course, as everyone's talking about this stimulus, which is really pennies, the banksters are raking in trillions. And what's happening right now is absolutely shocking. And me and Tim Picciott, the Liberty Advisor, will be talking about that, plus a lot more, but specifically focusing, of course, on the Federal Reserve, whose balance sheet is now at $6 trillion. And of course, a lot of that money is going to other banksters. And what are the rules? You would think there would be some strict regulations. You would think there would be some strict protocols about, hey, you're receiving a lot of money from the state, from the Fed. You know, what are you going to do with that money? Well, the Fed is going out of their way and they're allowing shareholder payouts and bonuses. And this is all laid out in this article here by Yahoo Finance with this very convenient title: The Mystery Behind the Fed's Refusal to Suspend Bank Dividends. There's another article here by Bloomberg: Fed's high-yield ETF buying defies explanation. Look at these poor journalists working for Yahoo Finance and Bloomberg that are so bewildered, so blundered. What's going on here? The criminal banksters are rewarding and paying off their friends? What? Why? Such a mystery. They've been giving all this power. They're giving all this money. They're rewarding all this reckless activity that has put us at the situation that we're in now. Gee, I wonder why criminal banksters are acting like criminal freaking banksters. Sorry, I went all Max Kaiser on you here, Tim, but what the shiza, man?
Dude, man, you're really you're not helping me out any when it comes to trying to make sure that the audio levels are okay on that one with the last.
I recorded audio on my own end, so hopefully it's
okay, awesome. But yeah, I mean, going into this article, we see the 2 point. Yeah, I mean, it's any mystery. Like, let's call Scooby and Shaggy over there to get in the mystery van to see why the bankers are getting this bailout. The $2.2 trillion stimulus bill recently passed by Congress sensibly restricts large companies getting help under that bill from distributing capital to shareholders or paying outsized executive compensation. These restrictions are not punitive towards shareholders and executives. Cash payouts to shareholders and executives are not a good use of precious capital right now, but that same rationale also applies to the nation's largest banks, which are also getting substantial government help. Indeed, bank regulators of other developed economies, including the European Central Bank and the Bank of England, have asked their banks to suspend dividends, buybacks, and discretionary bonus. As the Bank of England put it, these restrictions are a sensible precautionary step given the unique role that banks need to play in supporting the wider economy.
Yeah, you don't give yourself a reward for creating this reckless situation. You don't give yourself a reward for putting us where we are right now. And on top of that, you shouldn't be given any money for failing. You should just fail. But that's not happening here, right, Tim?
No, that is not happening here. So we see, ironically, U.S. regulators are going in the opposite direction. A few weeks ago, they appropriately gave large banks permission to dip into supplemental capital buffers designed to give them the ability to expand their balance sheets in times of stress. To be sure, the Federal Reserve has been heroic when it comes to stimulus measures. There is nothing heroic about, I mean, it's like saying, oh, we found this guy who was having, withdrawals from alcohol, and so I was the hero that came in and, bought another keg for him to go make sure that he's, never going to move from that seat.
And injected heroin in his freaking blood and slapped him upside the face with some fentanyl on top of that. That's a more accurate description there. Sorry there.
Yeah, I mean, and we've said this a few times, but former Dallas Fed President Richard Fisher actually said that we were running the economy on heroin and cocaine, his exact quote, and then maintaining it on Ritalin. Well, now the Ritalin's not enough, and now that's why we're on the fentanyl. And apparently I've had people in the comments criticize me saying that, the other thing example that I used for fentanyl wasn't the correct one, but, I'm not an expert on fentanyl, so, sorry about that. Anyways, to be sure, the Federal Reserve's heroic moves, for their stimulus measures, but make no doubt, these programs are letting big banks off the hook by easing pressure on them to support distressed markets and helping struggling borrowers in addition to giving them access to virtually unlimited liquidity. To its credit, the Fed has publicly and repeatedly directed the banks to support the credit needs of the real economy, but is also creating incentives for them to do the opposite. It also eased stress test requirements, risk-based capital measures, and supplemental capital buffers. We'll have to ask John Sneisen about that maybe on Saturday. It has signaled that banks do not need to put any of their own capital at risk to participate in lending program that is 100% backed by the government. So, I mean, here we go. We got these big banks. They don't even need to take on any risk, whatsoever. But yeah, and so this is, basically a big stealth bailout, this entire program. So not only are the banks getting money, but they're also basically getting, collecting fees off of our ability to have to borrow money to get the money from this whole CARES package. So another, stealth bailout. And then they're putting up, all these things like, oh, by the way, the fees that we're able to charge off this lending facility of which we take no risk on, those fees aren't enough. And if you don't raise them to, double what they are right now, we're not even going to participate. That was what I know JP Morgan said. Maybe people should just go and just boycott JP Morgan. I think that would be, I know Max, speaking of Max Kaiser and rants, he was pretty famous for trying to get that going. But, speaking of getting things going, Donald Trump is getting that annual deficit going. The coronavirus pushes annual deficit forecast towards $4 trillion. And, that even blew away. I mean, I was on record saying that Donald Trump, if he were to have a presidency that lasted 8 years, that he would actually, far exceed what Obama in terms of deficit. And I feel a sneeze coming on, but stop that coronavirus, of course, is not coming out here. This is what happens when you're filming live. But you also have, the president is set to preside over.
Another reason why you should wear a mask. Another reason why you should wear a mask. Sorry, I had my own sneeze there. Sorry.
Yeah, I've had, I've had allergies for a very long time. It was outside. I'm outside all the time over here. Everything, all these stupid, I forgot what they call these trees out here in Arizona that are coming into bloom right now. Palo Verdes. I know Nicole, who's listening on now, probably knows what I'm talking about. But these stupid Palo Verde trees drive me nuts. Anyways, nobody cares about that. Trump set to preside over record spending deficits as deficits explode. President Trump, with support of Congress, is poised to preside over an unprecedented explosion of government spending that already is set to shatter deficit records and could grow further if plans for more corona relief bills, nearing a potential price tag of $5 trillion to help become a reality. Following the passage of the $2.2 trillion CARES Act last month, Goldman Sachs has forecast the federal deficit will reach $3.6 trillion in 2020, according to Wall Street Journal. That is more than double the $1.4 trillion budget deficit the U.S. racked up in 2009, but the highest one-year deficit in terms of gross dollars in U.S. history. So I would, and what I was getting at before is I was saying that if Trump were to have 8 years in office, that at the rate things were going, that I was predicting that he was going to far exceed Obama. And this is actually, before all this whole thing blew up. And because what I was saying is, listen, if we can't pay off the debt and we can't have the balance sheet going down during the greatest economy ever, then when the hell do they expect to eventually, have this, turn this ship around? So, I mean, it's sort of like if you are if you're a household and all of a sudden, you're saying, oh, how are things going? And you're like, oh, well, I'm getting deeper into debt and, my credit card bills are exploding. And every month, I'm losing more and more money. You'd say things are going terrible. However, if you're the government, somehow you're out there, taking a victory lap about how good things are going. So if you as a family aren't able to pay down your own debt during the best time ever, then it's probably a pretty grim outlook for your family. And so, the family of the U.S. government, that's exactly where we're at, Luke.
It's such an insane con game that's being played on everyone. And there's so many people, so many gullible, I don't want to call them magatards.
Well, they call it Congress, so cons.
Yeah, there's so many gullible people being like, he made the economy great. I mean, what is he doing? He's building the deficit. He's borrowing more money. He's printing more money. He's getting this country in debt more than the previous president. And now you're like, we're doing great. America first. And I'm like, that's not how you don't go over your credit limit. You don't spend more than you have. And that doesn't make the economy great. Again, it's just mind-boggling to see this happening. And again, there was some conflict between the Fed and Donald Trump that we covered throughout his presidency. But right now, Donald Trump literally just gave the keys over. They're like, hey, Mnuchin, Mr. Goldman Sachs, here you go. Just do whatever you want with it. He's like, okay, we're just going to have secret bailouts. We're going to give money to our bankster friends, the friends that don't create any value or wealth. I mean, if you look at essentially what's happening here, this is such a game. This is such a Ponzi scheme. When we look at all these banksters, what do? They use money to make money. They make loans. I mean, what? What service? What? Manufacturing? What do they do? Nothing. But they put us in a risky situation where literally everything hangs in the balance because of their reckless behavior, and then now they're rewarding it. You look at BlackRock, the company that's benefiting most from this, most from their cozy relationship with the Federal Reserve. They had so many funds that were so irresponsible, that were crashing. They took risk to the fullest extent that they could, and now the Federal Reserve is buying back their risky behavior. Their losses have to be socialized. Yeah. But their profits, their record profits, they were privatized. They were able to keep those. Why are they not allowed to keep their losses as well? Again, what we're seeing here is centralization, socialism, and it's kind of, I mean, Donald Trump is busy with a whole bunch of other stuff. He has a whole bunch of ego fights with other representatives. My camera died. I'm going to fix it in just a little bit here. We could just go to the articles here, especially by CNBC, which I was going to go anyway. But right now, what we're seeing is the keys have been given to the Federal Reserve. They're running with it, and we're going to be paying the price for it. I'm going to change my battery and camera right now.
All right, well, good. Luckily, I've got the ability to rant on a bunch of things. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about is this is an article actually going back to January 20th, and somebody asked Trump about the budget. And as deficit soars, Trump asks, who the heck cares about the budget? And then if we go down here, it goes, to those who have criticized his spending and the growing national debt, Trump said, who the heck cares about the budget? We're going to have a country now. And so it's sort of funny now that, I guess it's not funny, but, now we pretty much don't have a country and the budget is absolutely exploded. So if your definition of a country is, okay, you've got to, stay, locked in your car, in a church service, out in your, out in a parking lot and you're getting $500 tickets in Mississippi, if that counts as, freedom, then, was that Luke?
We're going to be talking about that specific story coming up. I think this is a good video. I think people really need to understand the bigger economic ramifications that are happening here because, again, this is a massive wealth transfer that is worse than 2008. People need to realize this. And I think if they did, there would be pitchfork in the streets talking about what the hell is going on here. Again, chicken scraps for the average person, filet mignons, 5-course meals for, of course, the people that put us in this irresponsible situation that puts us all at risk. So I think we should maybe even put this on the main channel, and then we're going to continue on with our backup channel, Change the News, specifically talking about what's been happening to people getting fined with church services in their cars, obeying social distancing, doing the right thing in the state coming in, and of course, having a heavy-handed approach that eviscerates and takes away not only your rights, but any kind of logical right assessment move to be made here. So Tim, the Liberty Advisor, we've been working together. A lot of stuff we have to cover. Let's just go back to the second channel. Stay tuned for more. Love you guys here on We Are Change.